He walked into the courtroom wearing a $3,000 suit and a smirk that said he'd already won. When Judge Caprio asked him why he'd fired a single mother 3 days before Christmas, he laughed and said, "Business is business, Your Honor. Maybe she should have worked harder." But what this CEO didn't know was that the parking ticket he was fighting would expose something far darker than illegal parking. And when the judge discovered what he'd really done, that smirk would disappear forever. Before we show you exactly what happened in that courtroom, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button because we're racing toward 1 million subscribers, and 94% of you still haven't subscribed to Judge Stories. If this case about corporate greed, human decency, and why money can't buy you immunity from justice makes you believe that karma is real, leave a comment below, because what happens next will restore your faith in the system. Providence Municipal Court. Thursday morning, November 21st, 9:35 a.m. The courtroom hummed with its usual mix of minor violations, parking disputes, and traffic citations. Cold morning light filtered through tall windows, casting long shadows across wooden benches worn smooth by decades of nervous hands. The clerk shuffled papers. The bailiff checked his watch. Judge Frank Caprio reviewed his docket with the same patient attention he'd given every case for 37 years. Then the doors opened. The click of Italian leather shoes echoed against marble floors. Every head turned. Marcus Wellington Rothschild III, 52 years old, CEO of Rothschild Capital Management, strode down the center aisle like he owned the building. Navy suit, custom tailored. Rolex submariner catching the light. Hair perfectly silver at the temples, the kind of distinguished look that costs $400 every 2 weeks to maintain. He carried a leather briefcase, Hermes, probably $8,000. His posture radiated confidence, the kind that comes from never hearing the word no. Behind him, trailing nervously, was his attorney, a young associate from Providence's most expensive law firm, carrying a stack of files and looking increasingly uncomfortable. The gallery stirred. An elderly woman whispered to her companion. A man in work clothes shook his head slowly. The bailiff called the case. Rothschild, Marcus. Citation number 2025-118874. Expired meter. Commercial loading zone, Water Street. Marcus approached the podium. He didn't look at the judge. He was scrolling through his phone. His attorney whispered urgently, "Mr. Rothschild, please put that away." Marcus waved him off dismissively. "Just finishing an email. This won't take long." Judge Caprio looked up from the citation. His expression was neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. That look people who knew him recognized. The look that said he'd already noticed something others had missed. "Good morning, Mr. Rothschild." His voice was gentle, almost grandfatherly. "Please put away your phone and approach the bench." Marcus finally looked up. He slid the phone into his pocket with exaggerated slowness. "Your Honor." The words were barely respectful, more like an acknowledgement of an inconvenience than actual deference. "My attorney can handle this. I'm a very busy man. My time is worth considerably more than this $250 parking ticket." The gallery reacted immediately. Gasps, murmurs. Someone muttered, "Unbelievable." Judge Caprio's expression didn't change. "I'm sure you are busy, Mr. Rothschild, but so is everyone else in this courtroom, and they all found time to show proper respect." He gestured toward the packed gallery. A nurse in scrubs who'd come in on her break. A construction worker with dirt still on his boots. A young mother holding a sleeping baby. These people make minimum wage. Some work 2 jobs. They manage to arrive on time and show courtesy. I expect the same from you. Marcus's jaw tightened. His attorney touched his arm in warning, but Marcus shook him off. With all due respect, Your Honor, I manage a $400 million portfolio. I have clients waiting. This ticket is a mistake. My driver parked in that spot for exactly 7 minutes while I ran into my office. 7 minutes. The meter maid must have been watching, waiting to pounce. Judge Caprio opened the file in front of him. According to this citation, your vehicle, a Mercedes S-Class, was parked in a commercial loading zone for 42 minutes. Impossible. Marcus's voice was sharp. My driver logs every stop. 7 minutes maximum. Would you like to see the photographic evidence? The judge turned his monitor toward Marcus. Time-stamped photos showed the black Mercedes, clearly visible, at 8:47 a.m. and again at 9:29 a.m. Both in the same loading zone marked, no parking, loading only, 15-minute maximum. Marcus barely glanced at the screen. Those could be doctored. Parking enforcement in this city is a racket. Everyone knows it. You write tickets to generate revenue, not to enforce actual violations. The courtroom went silent. Even the stenographer's fingers paused. Judge Caprio leaned back slightly, studying Marcus with an expression that was impossible to read. Mr. Rothschild, are you accusing this court of corruption? The attorney jumped in quickly. Your Honor, my client is simply expressing frustration. We're not alleging any impropriety. But Marcus wasn't backing down. I'm saying the system is broken. These meters are designed to trap people. The loading zones are too short. It's all about revenue generation. You know it. I know it. Everyone in this room knows it. Judge Caprio closed the file slowly. Officer Martinez, you issued this citation. Please approach. A parking enforcement officer stood from the gallery. Maria Martinez, 34, wearing her official uniform. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from working double shifts to support 2 kids. Officer Martinez, can you describe what you observed on November 14th at Water Street? Mariah stepped forward, her voice steady but quiet. Yes, Your Honor. At 8:47 a.m., I observed a black Mercedes S-Class parked in a loading zone. The driver was inside the vehicle. I made a note and continued my route. When I returned at 9:15 a.m., the vehicle was still there. Same spot. I waited, thinking perhaps someone was actively loading or unloading. At 9:29, still no movement. That's when I issued the citation. The vehicle had been there for 42 minutes in a 15-minute zone. Marcus interrupted. Was anyone loading or unloading when you first saw the car? No, sir. So you don't know why we were parked there? The zone is for commercial loading only. Your vehicle isn't a commercial vehicle. Marcus turned to Judge Caprio with a triumphant expression. Exactly. She admits she doesn't know why we were there. Maybe my driver was waiting for me. Maybe I had a medical emergency. She didn't bother to ask. She just wrote the ticket. Judge Caprio looked at Officer Martinez. Did you observe anything that suggested a medical emergency or legitimate business use? No, Your Honor. The driver was reading a newspaper. When I issued the citation, he became verbally aggressive. He told me I was targeting him because of the type of car he drove. He said, and I quote, "My boss will have your job for this." The gallery murmured. Marcus's attorney looked increasingly worried. Marcus himself showed no emotion beyond irritation. Judge Caprio studied the citation again. Something had caught his attention. Officer Martinez, this address on Water Street. What building is that? That's the Rothschild Capital Management Building, Your Honor. It's an office building. So, Mr. Rothschild, you were parked in a loading zone directly in front of your own office building? Marcus shrugged. My building has underground parking, but the entrance was being serviced that morning. Maintenance issue. So, instead of parking in a legal spot a block away, you used a loading zone meant for businesses that need to receive deliveries. For 7 minutes. Marcus's voice was getting sharper. 7 minutes, Your Honor. This is ridiculous. I'll pay the fine. Can we move on? I have a meeting at 11. Judge Caprio didn't respond immediately. He was reading something else in the file. His expression shifted subtly. Mr. Rothschild, I see here that on the same morning you received this parking citation, November 14th, your company issued a termination notice to an employee. Is that correct? Marcus blinked, caught off guard. I don't see how that's relevant to a parking ticket. Humor me. Did your company terminate an employee on November 14th? The attorney stepped forward. Your Honor, with respect, personnel matters are confidential and not relevant to this citation. I'll determine what's relevant, Counselor. Judge Caprio's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath now. Mr. Rothschild, did you or did you not terminate an employee on the morning of November 14th? Marcus hesitated, then shrugged. My company employs 47 people. Personnel decisions happen regularly. Yes, we may have let someone go that week. I don't recall specifics. The person you terminated was Jennifer Martinez. Would that name happen to be familiar? The courtroom went completely still. Officer Maria Martinez's hands gripped her citation book tighter. Her face had gone pale. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Martinez is a common name. I don't know every employee personally. That's what HR is for. Judge Caprio looked at Officer Martinez. Officer, do you have a sister named Jennifer Martinez? Maria's voice was barely audible. Yes, Your Honor. She worked as an administrative assistant at Rothschild Capital Management for 3 years. And was she terminated on November 14th? Yes, Your Honor. Tears were forming in her eyes. 3 days before Thanksgiving. She has 2 children, my nieces. She's a single mother. The gallery erupted. Gasps, angry mutters, people shaking their heads in disbelief. Judge Caprio raised his hand, and the room quieted. He turned to Marcus. Mr. Rothschild, are you telling me that on the same morning you illegally parked in a loading zone outside your office, you fired the sister of the parking officer who cited you? And you don't see any connection there? Marcus's face flushed. This is absurd. Jennifer Martinez was terminated for cause. She had performance issues. This has nothing to do with a parking ticket. This officer clearly has a vendetta against me because of her sister. This citation should be thrown out immediately based on bias. Judge Caprio's expression was unreadable. Bailiff Rodriguez, please retrieve Jennifer Martinez's employment file from the court records. Marcus's attorney spoke up quickly. Your Honor, employment records are confidential. You can't just... I can when there's a suggestion of retaliation or bias. This court has subpoena power, Counselor. You know that. Now, Mr. Rothschild, would you like to cooperate? Or should I issue a formal subpoena? 20 minutes passed. The courtroom remained packed. No one left. This was no longer about a parking ticket. Bailiff Rodriguez returned with a folder. He handed it to Judge Caprio, who began reading in silence. His expression grew darker with each page. Finally, he looked up. Mr. Rothschild, according to these records, Jennifer Martinez had exemplary performance reviews for 3 consecutive years. Her last review, completed in October, just 1 month before her termination, rated her as exceeds expectations in all categories. Marcus shifted his weight. Reviews are subjective. Her recent work had declined. Her termination notice states she was let go for insubordination and violation of company policy. What policy did she violate? She refused a direct order from management. What order? Marcus hesitated. His attorney leaned in, whispering urgently. Marcus waved him away. She was asked to falsify some client documentation. Minor adjustments, she refused. The courtroom exploded. People were standing now. The bailiff had to call for order twice. Judge Caprio's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Mr. Rothschild, did you just admit, under oath in this courtroom, that you fired an employee for refusing to commit fraud? The attorney grabbed Marcus's arm. Don't say another word. Your Honor, I need to consult with my client. Too late for that, counselor. Judge Caprio's voice was ice now. Mr. Rothschild, you came into my courtroom complaining about a $250 parking ticket. You insulted this court. You dismissed the hard work of a parking officer doing her job. And now you've admitted to wrongful termination and potentially securities fraud. Marcus's face had gone from red to white. I didn't admit anything. You're twisting my words. Stenographer, please read back Mr. Rothschild's last statement. The court reporter read in a flat voice. She was asked to falsify some client documentation. Minor adjustments, she refused. Judge Caprio leaned forward. Mr. Rothschild, I want you to listen very carefully. This parking citation has just become the least of your problems. Bailiff, please contact the Rhode Island Securities Division and the Attorney General's office. Marcus finally looked scared. Your Honor, I misspoke. I meant she misunderstood instructions. There was no fraud. This is all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? You just confessed in open court to asking an employee to falsify documents. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a crime. The attorney was frantically whispering. Marcus looked like he might be sick. Judge Caprio turned to Officer Martinez. Officer, when you cited Mr. Rothschild's vehicle on November 14th, did you know your sister had been fired that morning? Maria shook her head, tears streaming down her face now. No, Your Honor. I didn't find out until that evening. Jenny called me crying. She told me she'd been let go. I had no idea when I wrote that ticket, I swear. Did you know this was Mr. Rothschild's vehicle when you issued the citation? No, Your Honor. The car was registered to a leasing company. I had no idea who it belonged to. Judge Caprio looked at the citation again, then at the photographs. So you cited this vehicle purely because it was violating parking regulations. Nothing more. Yes, Your Honor. That's my job. I cite violations regardless of who owns the vehicle. He turned back to Marcus. Mr. Rothschild, Officer Martinez performed her duties with professionalism and integrity. The only person who has shown bias and contempt in this courtroom today is you. Marcus tried one more time. Your Honor, please. The parking ticket. Can we just resolve the parking ticket? I'll pay double. Triple. I'll make a donation to the city. Just let me leave. Judge Caprio's voice was quiet now, but it carried through the silent courtroom. Mr. Rothschild, you walked in here thinking your money and your position made you untouchable. You thought you could dismiss this court, insult a hard-working officer, and walk away with nothing more than a minor fine. But you made a critical mistake. You underestimated the power of simple human decency. He held up the citation. This $250 parking ticket has exposed something far more serious. Your illegal termination of Jennifer Martinez. Your admission of asking her to commit fraud. Your complete lack of remorse or responsibility. Money doesn't make you better than anyone else, Mr. Rothschild. It just makes your failures more expensive." The gallery began to applaud, slow at first, then building. Judge Caprio raised his hand, and they stopped. "Here's my ruling. The parking citation stands. You will pay the full $250 fine plus an additional $500 for contempt of court. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the Attorney General for investigation into securities fraud, wrongful termination, and retaliation. Your attorney will provide all relevant documentation within 48 hours. Marcus was shaking now. "Your Honor, please. This will destroy my business, my reputation." "Your business deserves to be destroyed if it's built on fraud. Your reputation deserves to be ruined if it's based on bullying and corruption. You didn't just fire Jennifer Martinez for refusing to break the law. You tried to silence her, intimidate her, and make her disappear." Judge Caprio looked at Officer Martinez. "Officer, your sister will be entitled to file a wrongful termination lawsuit. I strongly encourage her to do so. Additionally, if Mr. Rothschild retaliated against you in any way for issuing this citation, that is also actionable." Maria nodded, unable to speak. Judge Caprio turned to the gallery. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case reminds us why the law exists. Not to serve the powerful, but to protect the powerless. Mr. Rothschild thought he was above the law. He thought money bought immunity. He was wrong. The law applies equally to everyone, or it means nothing at all. Court is adjourned." The gavel fell with a sharp crack that seemed to echo forever. Marcus stood frozen, his expensive suit suddenly looking like costume jewelry. His attorney gathered files with shaking hands. As they turned to leave, Officer Martinez spoke. Her voice was stronger now. "Mr. Rothschild." He stopped, didn't turn around. "My sister is one of the best people I know. She's honest, she's hardworking, she's everything you'll never be. And now everyone knows it." Marcus left without responding. The click of his expensive shoes seemed hollow now. Defeated. 2 weeks later, Jennifer Martinez filed a wrongful termination lawsuit. The case settled within 3 months for an undisclosed sum reported to be over $400,000. The settlement included Jennifer's full reinstatement with back pay, though she chose not to return. She used the settlement to start her own business, a consulting firm helping companies implement ethical compliance programs. The Rhode Island Attorney General's investigation uncovered systematic fraud at Rothschild Capital Management. Marcus had been inflating client returns, falsifying reports, and misrepresenting investment performance for years. 7 clients had lost significant sums. The company was forced into bankruptcy. Marcus Rothschild was charged with 14 counts of securities fraud. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial and was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. His attorney managed to get the sentence reduced to 3 years with good behavior. But the real punishment was the complete destruction of everything Marcus had built. His reputation, his business, his freedom. All because he couldn't accept responsibility for a parking ticket. Officer Maria Martinez still works for Providence Parking Enforcement. She's been promoted to supervisor. When asked about the case, she's brief. "I was just doing my job." Judge Caprio saw what I couldn't see that morning. That sometimes a parking ticket isn't just about parking, sometimes it's about justice. Judge Frank Caprio keeps a framed copy of the citation in his chambers. The $250 ticket that exposed a $400 million fraud. When visitors ask about it, he tells them simply, "Never underestimate the power of doing the right thing." This case became a teaching example in law schools across Rhode Island. Ethics professors use it to demonstrate how arrogance and contempt for the law can unravel even the most carefully constructed fraud. Business schools cite it when discussing corporate culture and the importance of ethical leadership. One professor summarized it perfectly. Marcus Rothschild walked into that courtroom worried about $250. He left facing 5 years in prison. That's what happens when you forget that character matters more than capital. What do you think? Should wealthy executives face harsher penalties when they abuse their power? Should employees be protected when they refuse to commit fraud? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe that justice should be blind to bank account balances, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that doing the right thing always matters, even when it costs you everything.